Hey David, whenever you're done, can you give me the link? Oh, got it. Hey, did it show for you guys that I pinged you? Is there a number one notification? Okay, Victor, do you see a notification like a one that I pinged you guys? You're on mute. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
No, I didn't see anything.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks. I will have to repost everything. Now, do you guys see it? Hmm? So we only need public goods library and how that's fine. I also share that thread onto the link. Sometimes people share in a public goods channel, but honestly, you don't really have to worry about that. I would just focus on the library and a thread. That's literally it. Hmm. Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Let me find the link. It should be in the public library. Thank you. Hey, Vish.
Bye.
Awesome reaction. But I think he usually pops up in pretty early, actually. Okay, so we're gonna see Ben persevere in a bit. Victor, do you happen to have the calendar invite from this week for the call, for this library call?
Come again? What did you say?
Do you have the library invitation for this call on the Google Calendar? On the calendar.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to.
I always have it.
I think also it's the holiday, so no one's here because we have New Year's Eve and we just got Christmas.
Actually, I was not sure if it's going to happen today because, like, the holidays, but then I got a Google notification like, oh, there's another library call. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's
Yeah,
see if it's
yeah.
actually happening.
More of an ops call for me. Usually I take care of all the library things in this call. But also just to get people to get started in the conversation. Usually Ben is leading the onboarding, but I feel like we need to actually start like onboarding call, which I will have to help set up soon. So usually at this time we just kind of discuss stuff. So pretty much for today is like whatever note. I'll just, since no one's here, we'll just repeat it for next week. We have someone who's interested in checking the space out and actually committed to like long hours, maybe like 10 to 15 hours a week. So we'll learn about the library, and as well. So maybe we'll check next week if they'll come. I have no idea. We'll see. Pretty interesting.
Will this person come today to this call or next week?
Yeah, for next. Well, which one? Okay, yes, for next week that person will come, but I'm looking forward for Ben Persefield to come in real quick and check out the Pope. He made a Pope. He didn't share me the Pope, so we will see how it works. It's like, hey Ben,
Hello.
I think for Popes you are supposed to get a bunch of links, and then you just give it to them individually. So like you can give it to people like in the thread whenever they jump on the call.
Perfect. Let's see. Hold on. I'm on my desktop. I just downloaded Discord. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for making it. Do you have an image of what it looks like? I'm kind of curious of what you made for the Pope.
It's really funny, honestly. Yeah, I'm happy to show it off. Like, give me a second. I have so many windows open. I wonder if there's an easier way to show this than just the Pope thing, but maybe that's the easiest way to do it.
If you DM me on the link, I will get it, and I will tell you if I got it.
Hold on. Later, and check it out because I got that. Common room go live. Ta-da! Is it Sharon? Is this?
It's still loading.
Maybe it's running, maybe not. I can always just share the link. I made it. It's like it's a tree, and it says "Last call of the year." But
Amazing.
I'm not a designer by any means. I just wanted to try and make a Pope.
Amazing. So, actually, you kind of made me think about I shared the Notion page in the ops. I couldn't see the image at all actually because like I don't know.
Yeah, I also didn't see it at all.
Yeah.
I
So
will just. I'm gonna send
you
everyone.
DM to me, then I'll be able to see it because I'll be able to click. So it kind of inspired, like, gave an inspiration in the sense that it would be cool. Like we're also gonna try to get them to like maybe help us out in this aspect. It's like get them to create a weekly design for a Pope design for a specific call, but that would require pretty much for all the speakers to be set and for the speakers to have a topic ready in hand so that we can create the Pope for the call. And I was thinking like if people can reach a certain amount, they can claim they can claim the they can claim the Pope and get a merch, a public goods merch.
I'm just gonna send a picture into the chat so everyone knows what it looks like. It's super silly. It's not. I do think that getting designers to design popes is better than my attempt, but it's like better than doing. At least there was an attempt as a that's the Pope that I made. Look at that. It's cute. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna DM people these links.
Well, oh, okay. That's true. You have to be okay. Cool. That makes sense. Let me. Because I was like, okay, you can just share into the thread. Do you see the thread?
The thread is the
I linked it in the
Is it? Hold on. Where did you link it?
I tagged all the library scholars.
Let's see. It might be here. Oh, cool. That's all the library attendees, but no, that's a different one.
No, that's for. It's in the Hello PG Scholars, so you can see. It should have tagged you in the public goods library. I tagged the YouTube stream link.
I'll just send friend request over. There's one for Victor. Add friend.
Morning, Cotton. Hey, Cotton. Are you there?
Yeah, what's up?
Was wondering, are you interested in modding one of a call for the library? A lot of our members from the library are people who mod the call.
I'm definitely interested in it. I don't think I have a great topic in mind right now, and I'm definitely very focused on some other projects right now.
Yeah, we
so
have.
Can I keep you in the loop?
Yeah, of course. So like pretty much I'm trying to develop a list for the next 2 months. So like for January, February, like if you want like a March, I can also put it down.
Yeah, March is probably going to be easier because I have so much stuff going up to ETH Denver and Shelling Point.
Oh yeah, that's exciting. I think a lot of us here are going to go to ETH Denver.
Nice, you're going to be there?
Try to go, and because I got school, so school is always a hindrance. But then David might be going. Oh, and David is going for sure. Wait, Ben and Victor, are you guys going to ETH Denver?
I was thinking about it.
Maybe.
Who's got the farthest travel? Is everybody in the States?
I think I'm in Toronto, which probably isn't that far.
I'm in Louisiana.
Ooh.
I'm from Vienna in Europe, Austria, Europe. You win.
You win. Victor definitely wins. David is also located in the US. Wait, Colin, do you have a date in March in mind? Because it's better to like put a date and I'll check in with you again, just in case.
Yeah.
Let me look at the calendar real quick and see. But pretty much all Wednesday, or pretty much all Wednesdays. So any Wednesday in March is cool.
I feel like I really shouldn't sign up for it right now. I would love to.
Okay. I will keep you in mind then.
Yeah, keep me in mind. I really would love to do it, but I've just been overcommitting to things right now, and I don't want to under-deliver on that. I think this is just too important.
Awesome. I love the work that you're doing with like the arts. It was like so cool.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm hoping to have
Do
some
I have
new
to use
cool
the
stuff
goggles?
soon. Yeah, with the goggles on it.
Yeah, we noticed in every single call, everyone always asks like what you're looking at.
Yeah, I don't want it to be distracting. I like everyone sharing their video, and I feel like it just loops people in with what folks are doing. But if it's ever distracting, just let me know. I'll switch my video off.
You gotta bring us
Oh
in.
yeah, no, I think you should just put it there. I don't think it's necessarily a distraction. I think it's more of a what's happening. So I think it even makes people a little bit more engaged. They're like, what's
It feels
going on?
so 2021. Like we have just some dude in a VR headset. Like I love it so much.
Nice. Well, we're gonna figure out what 2022 is. Yeah, that's where everyone
Yeah.
else joins in.
Yeah, I have a headset. I'm happy to try and figure it out. Get
Nice.
into
Yeah,
it.
I mean that's what's exciting for any digital artist right now, or anyone who's making 3D models, is like when everybody else can actually view the models in 3D. But I feel like we're still a ways away from that.
I feel like Apple's really making a headset or AR glasses or something like that, which I think is the consumer level hardware that we're all hoping for.
I'm really hoping. Yeah.
So-
Yeah. They haven't
Fingers
released anything else on that, have they?
It's all just like, breadcrumbs
rumors.
trails of like, here's a morsel of like potentially a rendering of a screenshot,
Yeah,
nothing.
like they made this patent and
Yeah.
something's coming. But if
It's
anyone's gonna
super,
do it, it's
super
probably Apple.
upstream. Yeah. Although, did you guys see that Apple is giving
What up?
$180,000 bonuses to engineers to retain them, to get them to stop moving to Meta or to like other companies? They're worried about
Hi, Gary.
talent spill.
Yikes.
Hello, Gary.
So,
GM, I should say, maybe.
GM.
Is that still in vogue? Can I still say GM?
Oh,
I hope GM doesn't go away. I think it's
Yeah,
bad.
me too. I'm putting the GM in WogMe, so don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in the public goods vibes chat. Yo, you know what's crazy? I confirmed with the speaker already. He's not here. I am slightly worried that he will not show. And he's part of the Bitcoin core team. That's why, not core. I don't know if he's
There's-
core. I think he's core. Yeah. So
There's something
It's
really
okay.
funny about showing and not telling education as like an experiential thing that we all go through. Like
I
to
am.
experience anarchy, you must truly be without leaders.
Yeah. This is more anarchism without having some speaker talking about anarchism. Just the participants will be talking about it. Very interesting
Yeah.
experiment.
It is. I mean, like I see. This is gonna be an intimate room for sure because it is a holiday, and a lot of people have COVID. Unfortunately, that is the case. So either you're sick or you're on a holiday, and so we have reduced to 6 people today without the speaker. So I honestly, this could be a pretty chill day. Even I woke up born like gonna be chill. Hello, Armand.
Hello.
Hey, hi everyone. Can you guys hear me?
yeah, how's
Yes.
it going?
Yes, hello.
Hope that
Yeah.
all of you had some great holidays.
I
too.
think all of us have a great holidays because no one's here. Everybody's sick. Yo, if the speaker doesn't come for real, guys, I did my due diligence. I checked up, sent calendar invite, talked about it, and well, this is actually gonna be hilarious. Yeah, whatever.
Did you guys read Key's new piece? I feel like Key is Key Krutler. I don't even know how to say it. It's something I can read better than I can say. But
Is that the person who wrote about like the history of DAOs?
yeah, the prehistory of DAOs. She works for she's a part of Gnosis, but she's also just a part of this like satellite of information that I orbit. So
Yeah, wait, can you share that onto the library?
yeah, it's cool. It's basically it's more about the cultural, like I guess the takeaway from like the conclusion was that she's more interested in like the cultural norms and like it's less about the decentralizing technological forces, but more about like what the governance is gonna like. It was an interesting reflection. I literally just read it, so I haven't had enough time to marinate it, but we'll drop it right now.
I think it would be interesting to kind of talk about like how do people find their sources in Web3? You know, like why do you believe like certain articles over the others?
My big like I feel like insight that I got from the kernel thing after talking to so many people about like how did you get into the space? It's never how did you get into the space, but who got you into the space, because the space is necessarily peer to peer. And so it's like who galvanized you towards action through skepticism is usually someone rather than something. And like I don't know, when you have peer to peer spaces, it's like okay, I'm in this group that's like loosely bound by all of these connections. And so I gravitate towards this Gitcoin, other internet, Gnosis sort of constellation of people. But I don't even remember, like, if I were to try and trace back to the Genesis person or whatever, like, I don't know who that is. Or I feel like in the middle of a maze where I'm like, I don't know how I got here. And I guess I could potentially take a bunch of right turns or whatever. But
honestly, I think that's the case. I think I had to be handheld through the entire process in order to know what's going on with crypto. I feel like I have a better understanding now, but only because I happen to be in a community of people who already are like into the crypto space. So asking questions is very easy. Where others say if they have no connection whatsoever to crypto and trying to get in, and if they aren't like super active in the space, they might not know anybody to help them out, right? And then they can't really get that questions answered. And then that's easy to drop off because when I first started, I find crypto very hard to understand. Like it was so overwhelming. Like I don't know what I don't know. Like there are things like wallets and ledgers and that's one side of it, right? And then there's the concept, which is public goods and digital Web3, Web 3.0 and whatnot. And I felt like it was so. Actually, David here is the person who like guided me through the process of crypto. So I had to ask him questions. But other than that, I feel like I would have dropped out. But also, I worked at so I had to ask people around. So yeah. How do you guys find your grounding in the Web3 space?
I would say through the internet. So I think like I was always like curious about what is happening with crypto. I mean, like I was looking for several documentaries, want to really understand the space, and then I decided I want to participate and see what is here. But I think like I had to talk with people what Web3 is to really get the understanding. And still, even now, I think like I know what it is. I still feel like I still don't know anything. Like it's so crazy because it's kind of very simple, but still very complex at the same time. So it's sometimes very difficult to say, like how everything works, the economics, that everything is energy, and what is the difference between Web 2 and Web 3. So, and then you realize there's still going to be more things coming the coming years because it's evolving. Because that what we are seeing is just like the first step. I mean, like I just found out like DeFi. I was so shocked that you can actually exchange different kind of goods. And then seeing all this evolving very quickly, it's kind of very fascinating. So yeah. And how did does someone want to say like how they come into Web3?
I'm happy to always talk when no one else does. So here I
Yeah,
am.
we're gonna actually, I want to target like either Colton or Gary because and Armand because they come here a lot and I kind of want them to speak. Well, and then
Yeah.
Ben, you're Ben. I would say Ben, you are the one who's gonna lead the call because we are leaderless, and so
Yeah.
yeah. So actually, I want to hear like Colton's and Gary's and QZ's story.
Yeah, I can jump in with that, and then we'll hand the mic off to Ben so he can lead us through the rest of this. It was just about a year ago when one of my friends sent me an article about Beeple selling all of his NFTs, and at the time I was still I was doing Spider-Man suits, and didn't know there was any other way to monetize my work as a digital artist. And I remember reading that article, and I knew Bitcoin was only good for buying drugs, and it was evil, and didn't know anything else about crypto. But when I saw that I could make money doing something besides just working for a company on video games that I didn't really care about, I was immediately incredibly curious. And I didn't take the time to really follow up on it until earlier this year when I really tripped and fell down the rabbit hole. But I think, my thoughts aren't totally developed around this yet. But when you were talking about like where you go for sources, I think, like anything in Web3, there's sort of this Wild West mentality and Wild West like reality to it, where it kind of depends on, like you said, who gets you started, which community you fall in with first, which YouTube video you see first, or which podcast you listen to first. And that sends you in either the regen direction or the degen direction. And the algorithms just kind of keep giving you more of that content from there. And I think unless it really doesn't fit with your personal outlook, like I think originally I was drawn into the space because of money, right? And I very quickly went, like the first time I heard somebody like Kevin talk about the regen side of this, it's like, okay, now I'm going to take a left turn and only go in that direction. But I think for a lot of people, they might just keep getting served up YouTube videos of like the next dog token that's going to the moon, and you just stay in that sphere for a long time. So yeah, just a couple different thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was so lucky to join into the Gitcoin space when I first got into Web3 because I was like for a while. I would only associate myself with like builders and people who are interested in the Web3 space and like how to build it better, right? And so I was talking to my cousin, and he associated with people who like, who do stocks and whatnot. And so when we were talking about crypto, he was thinking about on like, flipping money and whatnot, right? And to me that was like super bizarre because that wasn't the mindset that I started with, which I figured is why like how you start into this space with the community that you're in greatly like, I don't know, it leads to a certain path, right? And like how you actually perceive the space. And most of the mainstream media always talk about money within the crypto space. And that's how people associate. They don't talk about public goods. They don't talk about like what we're building. Stuff that gets on the news are like the Constitution that raised $46 million. And they talk about and so a lot of people that are not into the crypto space, they feel like the crypto space is very like cult-ish, right? It's a cult essentially, and they don't want to get into it because it's how information is being spread, what kind of sources people are believing about a certain topic. I don't know if mainstream media is the best place to learn about the crypto space, but that's what a lot of people are getting that access to information from. And so I don't even know if the sources have that experience in the crypto space to be talking about it. But yeah.
There's like a famous line that I'm sure you guys all know, but the medium is the message. And so if you get into crypto through YouTube, you're going to get in through crypto YouTubers and like have a slant towards dog coins and like Cardano and whatever sort of like crypto YouTubers bags that they're pumping. But I feel like the weirdest side effect of crypto is getting me into Twitter. Like I didn't really like Twitter that much before crypto, but now it just feels like the only place that I can stay relevant. And then it's less about like Twitter, the platform, but who I'm following, like lists and like, groups of people that are like, something that used to happen a couple of years ago was Follow Fridays, FF. I don't know if you guys were around for that, but they would just drop a shit ton of people on Fridays and they'd be like, you got to follow these people. And I loved when there was that going on. I love the end of year lists reviews, but I really do think that the medium is the message in terms of what you can take away, because when the medium is the mainstream media, all that they focus on is like salient. There's like a vested interest from the mainstream media to like keep order and stability, and so necessarily they don't want like crazy volatility, because that's not the job of the mainstream media, is to like, you know, keep people satiated. That's the point of having a 24-hour news cycle, is that there's like a little bit of scare all the time, but also not that much too scary. Like it's like a constant tension, but you got to keep the rubber band tight, not loose, if that makes any sense. But I do think it's really interesting, because I want to echo what Colton said about Beeple, because I do think that for so long there was such a fucking emphasis on DeFi, banking the unbanked, all of this sort of like, no one gives a shit about finance at all, but people care about money. And so the idea that you can make 69 milli off of some digital art is like a very clear value prop to artists. Like you don't even have to explain the technology at that point. Like if you're an artist, you can make $69 million. And that's like, well, I'm interested in that. And then there's actually a weird thing about like the guy who bought the 69, like the guy who spent 69 million, he's just seriously like pumping his own bags, because he like fractionalized a Beeple collection. There was the B20s, and like it just ended up crypto, where it's like, well, maybe it's kind of weird, but it's cool how it set a precedent that like after 69 million was spent on an NFT, it's like literal billions have been spent by consumers, and like everyone just being like, let me take up that mantle. But it's definitely a feature, not a bug, of a decentralized space, that there is no there's a really good article by Nick Carter that I'll put in, but it's called Visions of Bitcoin. And it talks about all of the different ways that you can look at Bitcoin. And it's like a feature, not a bug, that there's no centralized narrative, because it's from the bottom up as was the top down. So like the message is necessarily fractured because the community is necessarily fractured. And so like you can't reconcile the two by like turning everyone to have the same thought, because it's a decentralized permissionless space, which is a really interesting sort of like yes-anding to like what feels like the hardest part about crypto to me. But I don't know. I'm going to link that and stop talking. I'll give this guy a pope. That's something I can do. But those are some thoughts. But we were talking about, how did you get into Web3? How do you navigate the space? How do you make meaning out of chaos? Classic stuff. If anyone wants to take up.
I can go ahead a little bit. I'm not sure who did mention like crypto were used to buy like online drugs and stuff like that. Honestly, the first time I looked into crypto, it was like around that subject, you know, to buy something with Bitcoin onto like Tor and the dark web. But anyway, like just to make a short introduction, and then I was pretty young actually, like at the early beginning of the Bitcoin, I guess, and then a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I think, I went on with MakerDAO, and they were already actually working in the way to decentralize, their like Oasis and all of the stuff they were really building. You can't really compare like Maker to Gitcoin, because Gitcoin, we're clearly, like a team of software engineering, and we're building stuff like nonstop. It's completely different. Which is why I have a lot of faith in Gitcoin, because like I think we're doing something like amazing so far. And yeah, when I started, like I had like my first money from David Utrobin. I'm not sure if I spell his name right, but he's the community manager lead at MakerDAO. And he gave me like 500 DAI. At this point, it was to make like a sort of event in my house, to bring friends and like get some pizza, some drinks, and do a presentation basically on what was MakerDAO. It did work well. I think I still have some picture of it. I did bring a few friends, so we did create a wallet. I did create a wallet for them, and I've sent them some DAI, so they were able, to get some cryptocurrency and basically do whatever they wanted to with it. But it was just like like a kick, just as like a starting point to get into crypto. And yeah, so they basically they were giving me some money to create an event in my house, and to like to share the knowledge around crypto, MakerDAO, what was possible at that time. and it was like a mini grants. And this is that idea I drop on the forum of Gitcoin to build like a mini grant system. I had a lot of reply around that conversation. I just didn't like make a lot of follow up because we were like really busy in the FDD and yeah, with all the Gitcoin grants around. But I think like this is something that I really want to go ahead in the future, like just to build like these mini grant decentralized way. Like you don't really need to ask like 10 people to get approved to get like that money. You can like I I'm not sure yet like how I can make it work. Basically, maybe with a trust score or something like that with a few metrics. But like you will be able to come up like grab a $500, make that even. And I think like just to promote and share the word about crypto, Web3, like metaverse, like $500 is cheap. Like you can do a lot of things with $500. I can I think it's important is like the event and the activities you are going to do with that and the energy around it. Right now, it's hard to make these kind of event with the like the COVID, but we can still do it virtually. Uh, sorry, which is amazing. And yeah, so I personally would like to keep on working on that task to like to bring multiple small project around Gitcoin where we can bring more people around us and to like the early people, like not the people that they're used to with crypto, but to bring more people and help them to understand basically what's possible. Like yesterday I saw an article and I was like, sorry for the word, but I was almost like pissed off. Like intro to the metaverse, it's like Zoo's new Zoo trend report 2021. Like I don't see a single time where they're talking about public goods. I don't just see like any word about public goods. So it's just like they're feeding up like the Silicon Valley people, you know. It is what it is, and so I think that there's so much room to grow around public goods and digital public goods that can turn into public goods. And this is one of the reason I'm here. I would like to put a little bit more emphasis on that. I think like Lynn, she's the perfect leader for public goods. She got like that big heart, and she's full of energy. And this is like these kind of energy that we need, like positive energy, like the yin and the yang, and but that's my my idea. Like I think yeah, well anyway, that was my introduction into the Web3 like a few years ago with MakerDAO, and it was great, honestly. It's not always about money, but of course many times like the money that comes with it's helpful. You can you if you use it wisely, you can do like many things. So like even like this year I pledged it like 10% of my wealth into public goods, right? Um, because I can, I can do this, and it is like I was super happy to, contribute to the Gitcoin grants. Um, so there's many way basically you can connect with public goods and you can just make it better. So yeah, I'm gonna just pass the mic to maybe Colton. I think Colton had a few words he wanted to share with us.
Well, it's funny because I actually just shared, how I was getting in
Oh yeah.
before, but I wanted to jump on what you just said there because it's such a cool way of bringing people in, the $500 just to like have a pizza party and have that human connection to somebody. Like I'm thinking I'm moving to Denver in about a month with my brother and his girlfriend, and we have to spark a new community there. And even with COVID, like how are we going to make some new friends and probably tell them all about crypto because that's all we seem to talk about anyway. But it also just making me think like with my art, I mean, I'm full time at Gitcoin DAO right now, and I'm reading Power of Myth with Joseph Campbell and thinking about the stories that humans have always been attracted to, and how we can use those same types of templates to attract more people to this narrative of funding public goods and regen and community. And I just kind of want to toss that out into this conversation too to see if people have thoughts on what types of visual experiences. It can be visuals, like I'm just a digital sculptor, but it can also be things like the gamified fundraiser that we did for the Greatest Art. But if there are like myths that you have come across that you think are particularly that could really be useful for Gitcoin to put out there for somebody else to who's just starting to learn about crypto, who's just starting to fall down the rabbit hole. Like, what are those myths, those memes that can really catch people? And if there are like visual ways that I can represent those, that's what I plan on being able to contribute going forward.
I
Nice.
do want to add some thought. I think like for people, maybe not necessarily myths, but pretty much an idea of what the future could be, which is a lot of like what people kind of like talk. This is a conversation about like how far away from the solar punk world, right? So like, just a lot of like the context within like creating a visualized world that people can imagine themselves in. I think a lot of Gitcoin article, like we had a proposal for like what is public good. So people are like writing down, like that's how this library started, right? So people submitted articles about what they think public goods are and what can be done in the space. So I think maybe you might be interested in looking at some of the written materials, because I think what would be nice is not just the image that is spreading out, but also the story behind that image, right? And the story could be like the article with the proposal about what the future could be with public goods. So that was the first thing that came up in my mind. I can also share you like some of the links as well, Colin, if you're interested. But
Yeah, cool. I would love to. There was one that came up a while ago. I don't know if I still have it saved here. And right here. Sorry, I'm pulling this back up. Positive Sum Worlds, Remaking Public Goods. So Sam Hart, Laura Loti, and Toby Shorin. I just seen that, like, it was the first article I saw when I jumped into the public goods library, and it was just my first like real hard article on public goods. It just kind of blew my mind.
Yep, and that was actually the article that led this proposal, right?
Nice.
That we reference this article a lot, and then people just get ideas from that context. But yeah, anybody have any thoughts on it?
I think that vibes are a public good because you can't exclude someone from the vibe, and you can't create tiered vibe. I mean, you can try, but the vibe is the vibe, right? And so, what I'd love is like a try before you vibe. Is there a way that you can share the vibe and make it reach wider audiences? I don't know. That's something. Basically, I wanted to write a paper for that public goods call, but I just, I didn't, because that's how it goes. But basically, what I wanted to write about was I think Web3 needs a Mr. Beast. Like, Mr. Beast is like the most popular YouTuber in the world, and all he does is he just gives away money in his YouTube fucking things. He's like the most popular YouTuber ever. Gives money to people and gamifies content. And so like there should be something that displays the vibe of Web3 and shows that you can make money for your contributions. It's such an easy fit of like what Mr. Beast does is already what the Web3 space is. And there needs to be a way that we can show the vibe and show that like just like there is no Mr. Beast. Like Ethereum is Mr. Beast, and you can just be like reimbursed by the network or whatever, like, I don't know. This is a weird thought that I have, but
I like it.
Yeah, another thing that I posted in the chat was this sort of meme that I think it was Shlomes who originally posted it, but it's like there's an influx of let me reread that. It's like it's a sort of circular thing, and it's like this technology is going to change the world, which brings an influx of speculators and grifters. And then the entire industry is flooded with highly visible garbage shaping public opinion, which leads to a core of true believers that continue to build legitimate bullshit. And so what I really like about Gitcoin is that it's like necessarily only on the cool true believers that are building shit in opposition to like this flashy whatever stuff. I think that that's really a strong community that they've already built, and I'm trying to be a part of. But having been through like bear markets, like the flashy stuff loses its sheen real quick, and the builders continue to build real slow. And so there's two different timelines that are working. But public goods, how do I relay it back to public goods? I mean, it's just the tragedy of the commons. Like, it's easy to do what's flashy, and it's hard to do what's slow and doesn't have immediate results. And so, however, we can, as a part of that slow sort of, iterating process, bring people in, that's what I'm excited about. So, is that YouTube channels or weekly calls, or it's probably all of them. It's probably all the above always. But just some thoughts
Yeah.
as per always. Lynn?
I have 2 thoughts on it because if you think about it, like if there was a Mr. Beast within a space, and then they would be considered like an influencer. And is an influencer considered a leader in the space? Would they actually be considered a leader? And if there's a leader, I guess it wouldn't be that very closely to an anarchy. But also,
It,
I kind of go ahead.
it can be maybe also like not an entity, but something that we can program. Like let's take in consideration like blocks like Stack. They're using proof of transfer, which instead of burning the crypto there, I just think it's like it made me think like it's similar what Ben is trying to say, but I'm not sure if you heard about it, but it could work. Yeah, definitely, because it's already working and they're actively working on that things. They're on the Bitcoin basically. It's like on the Ethereum network, but it could certainly work like in that way. Yeah.
I actually want to hear Scott's thought because I'm
Yeah.
sure because Scott has seen how Gitcoin went through the bear market, right? And so because I'm assuming that we lasted because we were building, but I want to hear Scott's thought. Are you here, Scott?
Yeah, I definitely think the bear market is like necessary in some ways. Like it's like definitely any economic cycle has downturn like that, and like there's ways to mitigate and make it less harmful for people overall. But I think that it's important to make sure that people recognize what's actually relevant in the space versus what's like more hypey. In terms of like, I mean, we mostly survived because even when people didn't have users, they needed developers. Like people were like still, and this is kind of like the interesting thing about Web3. To Ben's point, is like even non-Ethereum projects like have massive treasuries. Even in the event of like a 90% downturn, like they have like Solana probably has like $1 billion or something crazy in terms of like treasury. Ethereum has like probably in the range of probably less treasury, although no one really knows exactly how much the Ethereum Foundation has, so I'm like not totally sure. But like the point is that there's enough funding for developers to get into the space, and I actually think that in if there is a bull or bear market, I'm not sure that like there necessarily will be, but I think that we're going to see the same sort of like attention paid to ensuring that we like find ways to attract users, which wasn't really an interest of like most of the larger kind of like players in the space, the last cycle. And I think people are realizing, wait, like that's actually like we have the ability to like user test, to like work with people and like see what actually like makes sense in terms of like, long term, like long term projects in the space, not like random NFT related DAOs that may or may not exist in like 6 months. But like I think there's real interest in continuing those experiments into the bear market, and I think there'll be like capital available for that. But yeah, I think that the big change is just like I think the sentiment can change very quickly. And the one thing that we definitely did find is like it was easier to get people to pay for kind of bringing developers into the space, like trying to figure out ways to grow an ecosystem. So like a Uniswap of the world still would want to run maybe like a Uniswap grants round, or they may want to like run a hackathon or something. But it is certainly still harder to get people to fund, I think, public goods a little bit, just because like people have a scarcity mindset when like things really like are more like clamp down. But the beauty of what we have now is like because Gitcoin kind of has its own economy, there is the ability for like basically the DAO to just simply choose to continue funding public goods in the bear market. So I think that there's almost like the treasury should like hopefully, and I think this is true for most DAOs, not just for us, like it should expand and grow and like, you know, kind of thrive in the bull market so that like we can kind of like use it to ensure that we have that sustainable funding to projects that need it in the bear market. I don't know if that actually answers the question because I was just getting coffee, so I'm just waking up, but hopefully that helps.
I love that.
Yeah. Does anybody have... Go ahead, Ben.
Just the one thing I want to open it up and not, you know, this is a public goods call, and if I talk through all of the public goods call, that's kind of ironic. But just the one thing that I want to like drop to everyone as like a link that I put in the chat, but it's called Crossing the Chasm. It's like the classic, how do you go from early tech adopters to mainstream consumers? And it's like a feature, not a bug, that in the last one we were looking for developers, and now we're kind of looking for consumers, because as we increase the amount of people that are in the system, we necessarily are marketing to different people. And that's what, there's like a book all about it. It's called Crossing the Chasm. How do you make niche technologies like consumer grade for the masses, mainstream adopted? And so still like, like 10 million MetaMask monthly active users, like still pretty paltry. It's, I mean, few soon, right? But you know, it's just that was all I wanted to say about this. I'm happy we're having these conversations because public goods are something that obviously always get forgotten about, tragedy of the commons. So if you don't talk about it, it will just necessarily be something that is taken advantage of or taken for granted. So it's nice that we sow intentionality into these spaces by giving space for public goods. So with that in mind, does anyone else have any public goods thoughts, opinions, article?
I want to target Cosmo or Gary because like they're like pretty they've been joining in and out with the library, which is like something that's just pretty exciting. Yeah, you guys have any thoughts so far on what you guys like on the conversation so far?
I've been hopping in and out, so if someone can give me like a brief overview of topics discussed. Can't hear you, Lynn. Or unless
Yeah,
Oh no! Oh yeah. I was speaking. Yeah. Ben, do you want to give like an overview? I think Gary was asking for an overview of what we were talking about.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in, but I saw you speaking without words. Kind of confusing.
Go ahead.
We sort of started. Well, the funny thing about this all is that this is a call about anarchy, where the leader has defected the call 2 weeks in a row. So it's sort of a show, and like we're showing, not telling, what anarchic systems are by removing the leader and just having sort of a free for all. But how we sort of oriented through that was, how did you get into Web3? How do you make sense of Web? And I'm sort of using Web3 as a stand-in for crypto because, and this is just a little tangent of my own, sharing my thoughts as always, but in marketing, we like to say that you sell the sizzle, not the steak, which means you sell the emotional benefits, not the functional ones. So you don't say, buy a steak. You're like, buy the sizzle and steak. And so Web3 is how the technology affect us, as opposed to like crypto is just like what the technology actually is. And so from a naming convention, it makes more sense to just say like, to focus on like, this is the next iteration of the internet. Why? Well, that leads up to better conversations than like, what can cryptography do for us? So anyways, Web3 is a stand-in for whatever the space is that we're currently in. How do you understand Web3? How do you make sense of Web3? How do you navigate Web3? And with all of that in mind, how do we sort of like keep public goods from being something that are forgotten about? And how do you conceptualize even digital public goods? Those are roughly the 3 or 4 topics we've gone through. But that being said, it would be publicly good if you also made another topic. Like there's no real structure. We have no leaders, and happy to hear what you say. So those are a few thoughts. Hopefully that brings you up to speed. If not, I can always talk forever, honestly. So, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to try not to. Anyways, did that do anything? Was that helpful? Hopefully.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, dang, I might just like write that down as like the summary for this entire call, which is like just literally copy like your words like word to word. So that was amazing. You're very good at synthesizing information. But yeah, anybody like Henry, Gary, Cosmo, Sid, and Armand want to speak on that? We've been speaking a lot. That's why I think it's nice to get like other people to join in. But I love Ben's like guiding to the conversation. It's so thought provoking.
I'm also actually happy to. I've been working on a presentation that sort of like I'm presenting to my company next year because I've become the crypto guy. Like I kind of showed my hand a little bit early because all these advertising, like a lot of clients want to do NFTs because it's so hype right now. And it's like, guys, I don't want to do like there's the Adidas drop was actually pretty good, but the Pepsi drop was terrible. And so like it's could be bad for your brand to like use this as a PR thing and not a marketing thing because it can actually negatively affect you. So I'm trying to like create a presentation for marketers as a way to understand the space. But I also don't want to take we could probably do that next week as well. But
well, actually, Ben, I'm gonna DM you because we would love for you to come and speak for these speakers. So awesome.
I think that's a really interesting conversation. I would love to hear your like a presentation that catalogs some case studies of when NFT integration worked or didn't work. I've actually seen videos recently of people saying, "Here's why we're not doing NFT stuff," and then those can go really popular, right? I would say that those arguably by default. Well, I think those probably by default are way more popular than saying I am doing it. So that's one thought.
Yeah, I mean,
so wait, what were the reasons why? Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, let's hear it.
No, I want to ask. Well, I wanted to ask what were the reasons why people are saying this is why I'm not doing it. I'm not doing this. Like I'm not doing like the crypto things.
I mean,
Gary? Oh, I don't know. I think it was because he was referring. I didn't know like, what were some of the reasons.
Because it's or quote unquote bad for the environment. Because it like if you add it to like not every game needs NFTs. So this is like a gaming person that was like, no, I'm not adding NFTs to my game. And a lot of you remember the Discord Ethereum like potential integration that got canceled? Like most gamers don't like crypto. They think it's like a scam.
Yeah, I feel like baseline the most common response to things that are confusing is skepticism. So like people are very skeptical about like it's kind of a joke to be like work from home, make $100,000. Like that was like I don't know if you guys had to sit through those ads for like however long, but like it felt like a scam for so long that they're like leave your job and use the internet to make money. And I'm like, how are you scamming me? Literally, I don't believe this. But I guess, it's a different world out here. I don't know. It's one of the things that I've really zeroed in on like why I think it's so scammy is that it's a feature, not a bug of decentralized value. When value is centralized, it's opt out, which is to say we all equally are like the $1 equals $1 forever and it's pushed outwards. Whereas like value in for decentralized systems, which is atemporal, which means that like people have different times that they like you're necessarily later than some, earlier than others with decentralized value because it's not centralized. It's something that is built by buoyed by the buying and selling and the transactional nature of market. And so I think that people find it to be a scam because it's like they think of the greater fools, where it's like, oh, it just requires a greater fool to, like that's the classic Ponzi line. But then it's like most investments, I mean, every investment requires someone to buy it in the future, and that's not a Ponzi. And like every business requires future revenue. And so it kind of gets a little gray and muddy about like, there was actually, I don't know if you guys are just, Kobe is on fire right now, dropping link after link after link. And he had a really good line in one of these things where he was saying that each generation rejects the Ponzi scheme of the last generation, which I thought was a really fire line. But yeah, I mean, it's Ponzi's all the way down, because like we're all just buoyed by belief systems. That's like what a lot of culture is like bounded by beliefs. And beliefs are pretty weird and malleable and infinite. How many religions can there be? How many languages can there be? How many cryptocurrencies can there be? Well, as many as that you can have, like the way that people organize and hold beliefs together, which is quite a few when you have different ways to connect. So all that being said, I'd love to hand it off to someone else. Victor, you're off mute. No, I look like you're off mute. I'd love to. I love your voice, honestly. Oh wait, no.
I see that Joe also, Joe from the FDD, he's here. He just joined the conversation. Maybe he got something great to share with us.
Get in here, Joe.
Disruption, Joe. You got a mention on the stage.
My favorite part of like every call is like, "Are you there?" You're making sure you're here.
Yeah, I think he's here. He's just.
I'm trying to figure out how to get back to
here.
it.
Oh,
yeah.
There
Yeah.
he is.
When you're just listening to it in the background, you got to flip through like 5 apps to figure out where it was.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you get called out. But I agree with you, Ben, on I started up a meetup group in like 2017, like where I would do these talks about Bitcoin every like week. And I think you might have been to some of them.
Yeah, dude, I went to them. Disruption Joe is the crypto guy in Chicago, which like I'm in awe to be in the same room as you.
Wow, really?
Yeah. That's funny. But when I was giving those talks, I found that one of the things people would most easily understand and relate to was drawing a picture of like a Ponzi scheme and then taking like little Bernie Madoff at the top and being like, but the problem is there's no Bernie Madoff who can run away. So where does this value go? It goes to each of the token holders who participated in the Ponzi in an amount proportionate to the amount that they hold. So it's like, yeah, it's a Ponzi. It's a headless Ponzi. So I don't know if that still is a Ponzi. It's like the most equitable socialist Ponzi there could be.
Yeah,
like the most access socialist Ponzi.
I think the most interesting idea, like going back to something, Ben, that you mentioned too, is like there's definitely a degree to which, like, yeah, like traditional companies are very much Ponzi's. Like, I mean, you've maybe a couple people who like have like, like 50% of the company, and then you start giving out like, you start giving out like salary, and like salary is fine, but like salary is not really like, you don't have any like upside or like stake in the company. There's no like cooperative element to it. And like by default in like crypto, you're paid, by at least, the option to be paid in like the actual like ownership of the entity itself, which is like different from like equity. Obviously, it's only like governance. It's not meant to be like, like an actual, like speculative asset. But like the beauty of it is the ability to like have, kind of an accrued say in the actual like organization itself versus just being like, oh well, I guess like they told me that this is what's happening this year, and so like this is what I'm going to do. And I think that's like a huge difference that people still underestimate in terms of like the actual power that provides, because people have like lost that sense of ownership for so long.
I feel like is just a weird thought that just came out of here, but because like all of these tokens are governance tokens, like what is the whole point? But like to be able to actively contribute and shape the communities that you're building. It's so funny to me that in a world where it's like 50% voting is like a really good election. Like no one votes. Like we don't as a society value voting or governance. But like what we're trying to do, all of the value lies within governance. Maybe voting, but definitely governance. And there's a really weird tension between those two things that like I think that we might value governance, but we don't have the right structures for governance. And that Web3 is a more like natural way that is anarchic because it's like necessarily like learn, burn, fail, like a lot of like crash and burn, but like through those failures you can have like move fast, break things as like applied to governance is a weird sort of like how can we move beyond voting and like to more equitable systems when we as a society seem to not even value governance that much. But that's what we're trying to build is more equitable and valuable governance systems. Interesting.
Yeah, like when you look at like, you know, the US, for example, I'm in Canada, but you know, we're both in Canada actually, man. But the biggest challenge is that you have a first past the post system, which means basically most of the votes like don't matter, and like you have to vote strategically in order to actually like have a chance at like getting anyone into power that you may want, or to avoid to avoid getting someone into power that you don't want. And the problem basically becomes, okay, well, you know, if you're constantly kind of like just trying to prevent like the worst possible outcome, it definitely like becomes demotivating. You definitely like lose this ability to like care about governance, and that's why you have like a lot of voter apathy that's built up over time, and that's why like voter turnout just keeps going like down every election. And to your point, like if you actually have, you know, governance where people feel like their voices are heard, and like one way to do that is through like a liquid democratic model in which like you can just kind of point your votes at whoever is like actually doing the things that you thought were good for like the overall group. Like that sort of model is just like infinitely better for like getting people to feel motivated and to feel like, hey, like there's a point in me like getting involved. I think we talked about this in another call, but like the other model I'm very interested in, which kind of like replicates the squad structure that like us but other DAOs as well are like taking on, is the like parpolity idea, which Aaron Swartz talks about a little bit in one of his posts on his blog. I don't remember the exact name, but like the parpolity idea is just like you have like, you know, powers of 5, and you know, by having these like kind of concentric power of 5 circles, you can just like eventually govern theoretically like 300 million people in a way that's like much more democratic than like just having like, I think right now if you look at like every senator or every congressman, I think it's like each person is responsible for like, I don't know, like 800,000 people. And like that's just like, how are they going to possibly know like what 800,000 people are actually like interested in and like take their interests to heart? Like they won't. And so anyway, there's like, yeah, all these experiments we can run, which I think is like pretty awesome.
Yeah, I really like that also, and I mean it's the Christmas break, right? So I've been talking to a lot of people about like my work in DAOs and stuff, and everyone is just like stuck. They're like, but what if you have to vote on everything? Then wouldn't it be stuck? And I was like, yeah, that's why we don't do that. And I'm like, yeah, so we just split the work streams. We get people to work on different projects and all that. They were like, huh? So it's like a corporate? I'm like, yes and no, right? Because we decide who runs the work stream, right? People get to vote on what happens on each work stream, and it's very granular, which I think is really great because I think democracy worked in Athens when there was like maybe like 40 Greek old men and like 3,000 people to govern, and like that's fine, right? But now with like humanity has clearly grown, and the problem is that I think we're also discussing like in terms of like political systems, right? And right now we don't really vote for the elected representative as individuals, right? We vote for like the party, and like in America, you either vote red or blue. Oh, was it one more? There's one more. I'm not sure. In Singapore, you either vote white or opposition. Like that's it. And opposition is like horrible. But like there are some individual like literal free like loafers and people that just like hop onto the party line and they just get voted in. And in Singapore, it's super crazy because it is like group representative constituency where you vote 5 people in together. So they literally spread out all the ministers across Singapore. So like you either lose a minister or you vote this guy with no experience in. And that's how people get put into politics, and it's absolutely crazy. Right. And I think it's great in the sense that now we can allow groups to vote and to decide on very granular things that affect them, right? Like you don't have like collateral damage. Like, we're going to do this policy for like the average person. The average person is a myth, right? I think the US Army tried that for like F-16 fighter jets or something, and they wanted to do like the average person, and they realized that like the helmet didn't fit for anybody, and that's why there is a height limit. Like you got to be 1.8 to fit in a fighter jet or something. And I think people don't realize this, right? Because we have been so non-participatory in governance, and we just leave it to people to decide. And a common refrain or some stuff people say is that like, we need like a centralized body to decide for us, like where the country is going to go in 20 years. And my response is always, okay, imagine 2001. Now, can you plan for now? I mean, you can't even plan for 2001. 9/11 happened. You can't even plan for SARS, much less COVID. And so maybe this is like the one chance where the whole self-determination or self-governance or like small communities can actually decide things for themselves. And like, I really like how like each different work stream in Gitcoin is trying it very differently, right? I mean, like Joe is here and Scott is here, and both of you run the work stream so differently. And I mean, if Brittany was here, and like I just hop in the Dream DAO and they run differently, and it's great because then we don't have to follow this one-size-fit-all legal corporate structure that has a board and like maybe a bunch of voting members and like some CEO. And now we can just like, if a university project group works, then let's fund this project group. If we need like a large team, then we fund a large team. If a research group works, then we do a research group, right? And I think that's really important because all that overhead of tracking different ways of voting, different forms of voting, is gone. Like you don't need to have like a gigantic floor full of like administrative workers just trying to track this stuff, right? That we all use this shared infrastructure to do things, and then we are building on it to make it even better. I was just talking to my juniors just now over lunch, and like we were like, whenever we run workshops, right? I imagine if our public library, like if you say you're gonna mod for the public library, then you gotta stick like 3 ETH, right? Then if you don't show up, then you lose it. But if you do, then we pay out from the treasury to you, maybe like 30% or something, right? There are all these new ways that we can do to help us govern not just like our communities but ourselves better in different ways. Yeah, just my 2 cents.
You know, it's actually the most interesting DAO, and I don't even think it's a DAO, but the most interesting use of governance or voting that I've seen or heard of, I guess, because it was from a podcast. I don't know if you guys listened to On the Other Side, Chase Chapman. Incredible podcast. I'll send I think it's the Oren McMillan, or if I don't really even, whatever, the guy from MakerDAO. Yeah, it's a really good one, and she brought up the idea she's in a DAO where it's 2 people, and it's just like a multi-sig that they've put funds into, and then you only need one of two to approve something. So it's like they've funded it, but they don't need any consent. Whatever they think would be best with their shared funds is what they're doing. And I'm like, that is a really interesting idea, is getting really granular with, because like it might be the case that it's not like DAOs we need the macro DAO that approximates all people into one working DAO. Like it might be the case that it gets so granular that you just have a DAO, 2 people that like, I mean, that's a multi-sig at that point, not even a DAO. I don't know. It gets confusing with the terminology, but I do think that, and that's kind of giving steroids to first past the post voting. So it's kind of not really a yes and in that degree, but there's some really interesting things going on with like unique, like using voting as a proxy for action, meaningful action. Because it doesn't have to be like a vote. It can just mean like a meaningful contribution. And we all are trying to reach consensus on that meaningful contribution. I don't know. I'll find that right now.
You're touching on the idea of like the exploration of a frontier versus like the settler thing. So there's like one, the Peter Pan post on like settlers and town planners and explorers, which is a good one to read in terms of putting it with DAOs. But another way to think of it would be like the avant-garde in art or music, where you're an untrained ear. Let's say you never listened to rap music before. And I'm sure you all had like a grandparent or somebody who heard some rap music and was like, it all sounds the same. I don't get it. You know, like that's a common response to something that you never hear. Because you don't have the ability to distinguish the differences. But then there's like the idea that I think Scott brought it up before, like if you're playing this game that governance pushes us towards now, which is like stop the bad from happening. This is what Vitalik's most recent post was on too, the bulldozer versus the Vitocracy. If you're playing the game where you're trying to stop bad things from happening, then you're also stifling innovation, and you don't have an option. That's going to be a trade-off. I call it like the running from the zombies game, where it's like if you're running from the zombies, you don't have to run as fast as possible. You have to like run faster than the person next to you, you know, which could include tripping them. You know, like that's not a good way to perform governance. But we want systems that are so awesome that people opt into participating in them because it's just better. That's real positive sum. Like where you just want to participate.
I do want to add, thanks, Joe. I do want to add that Callie Huxwell is here. He just, Callie, would you like to say something? So pretty much like, no, yeah. So pretty much he just texted me like, yo, you should come in. Like, we'll be very happy to see you. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that I dodged the 2 calls I was supposed to moderate, and the subject was really interesting me, but yeah, unfortunately, I just fucked up. Let's say it the way it is. But I rewatched the first call, and it was a super interesting conversation. Some people talked about biomimetism. So it wasn't an experiment, unfortunately, on my end to see what was going to happen if I was not showing up. But what I can say on those lines is like there's this flower, the water lily, and the water lily is in an environment that is like not beautiful. It's muddy, it's dirty, and still you have this beautiful flower that flourishes out of chaos. And I feel like that's what you guys did. I've created a situation of chaos where there wasn't any specific instructions, and then you made it beautiful by still bringing up great topics. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, gotta thanks Ben for leading today's call, taking up the space. So thanks so much, Ben. And also glad that you're okay, Callie. Like that's the most important. And everybody's enjoying the holiday. It's a pretty intimate group, but we did hit the time. So thank you for everybody for joining, staying on the call, even though our topic was all over the place, but it was actually so interesting. So thanks so much, guys. Excited to see you guys next week. After happy holidays. Again, special thanks to Ben, and thanks for showing up last minute, Callie. Like, appreciate you actually jumping in the call and like.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, thank you very much.
DM me any also if I didn't. I tried to send. I didn't get a Pope link to you. Just send me a message. Thanks, guys.
Will do.
Cool.
Right.
Thanks
Bye,
for
guys.
hosting. Happy early New Year.
See you
New Year.
See you next year.
See you quite.
Bye-bye. Zola. Okay, cool.
Indian Kryler.
Yeah, 新年快乐，再见，拜拜。